opinion and lifestyle coverage in Bakersfield and Kern County. It's the easiest way to stay up to date on all things local while on the go. Read it on your smartphone or tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores.
The Bakersfield Californian is a great read on the iPad, but did you know that the Bakersfield Californian is available on your Kindle Fire? Or how about Google's Nexus 7, the Nook? You bet. You can also read a full replica of the newspaper on your Android-powered smartphone, on Apple's iPhone, or on your laptop. We have a solution for any device. E-Edition is free for subscribers, or just $7.99 a month. The Bakersfield Californian. We're everywhere and anytime. Subscribe today. Bakersfield.com.
Now, from the Dignity Health Studio at the Bakersfield Californian, it's time to open up with Don and Tina, your favorite pair on the air.
Yes, it's time to open up. I'm Tina, and this is Don, and we have a fabulous show lined up for you today. So, and welcome to our studio audience today.
You bet.
And to all our friends around the world that's watching. Don?
Well, one of the things we do here on Open Up with Don and Tina is, you know, if you're a business and you want to advertise, you can buy something in the newspaper. You can buy a 30-second ad or a 60-second ad on radio or television. But here on this show, we actually devote the entire first segment to any business that wants to come on and really talk about who they really are. And so you really get to meet them. You really get to hear who they are and get an in-depth feeling for businesses in our area. And one of our proudest sponsors is Pasquini Engineering. And we've got two of their top people with us here. This is Chris Matus. He's with us now, Juan Rosales, and they're on the staff over there. Mark Pasquini is down in what? Where'd you say?
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara.
Oh.
He's on a project that was showing you guys do work all over the country. And then Cleet Harper is down at Cedar Sinai this morning. He's another principal undergoing some medical tests. So these brave guys stepped in for us. But one of the things why Mark Pasquini is sponsoring so many of these shows, and I think rightly so, is that your company does so many things. I mean, it's hard in one block to just talk about all the things that your company does, and does in a very unique way for design and engineering firms that are designing. We need to say everything from you got a backyard patio you need to have done, or you want an entire subdivision with schools and churches and homes and the entire layout. They do it all. So, Chris, tell us about your experience in just coming to work with Pasquini. And Juan, you the same.
Well, I guess first off, like you said, yeah, Pasquini is a one-stop shop. They do not only just the civil and the surveying and construction management. They do geotech, all that stuff, and they also do house plans. So it's not just kind of do the civil side and surveying and you're done. They can design the houses that go on the lots that will subdivide or that will design, stuff like that. So this is the first place I've ever even heard of that can take any project from conceptual to completion or field to finish. So it's really, really neat thing.
How long have you been working with Pasquini?
I've only been there maybe 5 months.
5 months?
5 months, yeah.
Okay.
But you see the contrast between what other firms are doing.
Yeah. And someone once put it to me this way, you know, if you want a really good toolbox, you don't just fill it full of screwdrivers. You know, you want a wrench, you want a screwdriver, you want pliers, and that's kind of what we have at Pasquini. It's a whole bunch of different tools, a whole bunch of different guys.
Okay. And we're talking about designing some elaborate log home in the mountains to something all glass on the beach.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Correct.
There's been a lot of homes that you would probably find on one of those kind of architectural magazines. They're that unique.
What about you, Juan?
I enjoy working there. Like he said, I enjoy the fact that we get to see a project from start to finish. And that's something I've always wanted to do. He said there's not a lot of firms that do that. And it's like he said, we have unique homes. There's one that they're currently working on that's very, very unique. There's not a straight wall in that house. Everything is curved. And it's taking a while to work on, but we're getting it done.
You know, on my way home, I drive out Highway 58 from Bakersfield toward Tehachapi and turn at the Comanche Drive on toward Arvin, and just to the left there's a brand new mini mart. And I remember walking into that for the first time. I just thought, this is a beautiful mini mart. This is the most beautiful mini mart I've ever been in. And then I discover you guys did it.
It's
and you're doing exactly the same thing over at Weed Patch and Bear Mountain Boulevard.
Yeah.
You're building one there, and what, you built 100 of these around California?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I've only worked there about 8 months. Yeah, so the company is expanding, and he needs, obviously, we're getting some work.
For two of you to be working such a short time there, you're so excited about it.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's why. No.
yeah, I enjoy working there. It's like he said, we have different type of people. They all specialize something else.
Now, you
different
mentioned the kind of work that you do could, and the quality of the work can be in a magazine. Have you ever had any of your homes or anything shown in magazines or displayed in magazines?
Yes, I've heard stories. I think it's an architecture magazine.
Oh, okay.
We're actually working for that same owner. She's the one designing the new house that we're currently. There's no straight wall. There aren't any straight walls in that house.
No straight
so
walls.
we're hoping that might get into the magazine as well.
Well, I can testify about something here, Tina. We've got a little 900 square foot cottage out at our place that we want to renovate. My sister wants to renovate it so she can retire there. And anyway, 900 square feet. Big deal. And I thought, well, we'll do most of the work ourselves. And boy, it didn't take me one inspection from the county to know we needed professional help. And it's been Pasquini Engineering taking our little project, making sure we get through all the county regulations. And there are a thicket of them, aren't there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And surprisingly enough, Mark and Clede, those two guys, they keep up to date with all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just priceless information that they've gotten from years of doing it, and I think that's why people go there.
The little handyman that's working out at our place said that he'd been wrestling with a problem, and it looked so complex and it was going to be so difficult to do, and walked into Mark, and he said in a matter of moments, Mark just pointed out how it was going to be done. Like a fog lifted, it just clarified everything that had to be done, made it very simple, and we're off and running on the project. So I can testify, you guys really know your stuff.
So
thank
when when someone is about to begin a new project or something, what do you tell them? How do they get in touch with you and get started?
They usually call the office, make an appointment, tell us what the project is going to be. That way we're prepared to have the information we're going to
Walk them through the steps.
And you do that for free, don't you? You do free consultations.
Oh, yeah.
Of any size.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you have in mind? Is it a lot split? Is it a subdivision? Is it just house plans? And we'll do some of the research right then and there. Kern County is phenomenal for their free online information that you can get. Yeah. So, I mean, what zone, general plan, all that kind of stuff.
And so you assist the people in these steps?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll say, because those kind of regulate your limitations, what you can and can't do. So we'll go, that's kind of our starting point. We'll go from there. We'll maybe sketch out a quick, lot layout or maybe design and setback, stuff like that. And kind of go from there, see if they like it, just working with the client, kind of really informal, just rapping back and forth kind of thing. That's another thing I like about Pasquini. It's kind of everyone knows what needs to be done. Everyone gets it done, but it's really a laid-back kind of place. If you've ever been in there, it's we know our stuff, we know what to do, we know how to do it, and just kind of have fun doing it.
You are a rowdy bunch. All right, now I'm going to give a little tip to all you commercial realtors out there. These guys, this company is growing so fast because they're doing so many things that they're just working on top of each other. They are going to need new office space soon. I can guarantee you that. So you ought to be in touch with Pasquini. If you've got, I think you're going to need at least 5,000 square feet of office space as I look at what you're doing. So at least. So anyway, there's a tip if you got a customer going here.
And let me ask, now, do I understand that you can also take something that is already, in existence and turn it into something more beautiful?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
All
Sure.
right.
Yeah, we can.
Like my home, perhaps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We do additions, remodels. We get things up to code. That's some of our business is just, people do things that are either they don't have permits for or, so it happens or, things are, they want to do something, but something else already existing in their home has fallen below code or behind code. And we can, with Mark Structural, and he can take care of all that.
What you just said, Chris, is you start something maybe at one point and a year later you go back to finish it up, and the codes have changed.
Right?
Yeah.
And suddenly you've got to do it a whole different way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, I think this year they changed.
Yep.
So
2014. That's why there's a big rush at the end of 2013 to get things turned in so that you can get grandfathered into those.
I got it.
Stay with the 2013 codes and not. But now, 2014.
Where'd you guys go to school? Where'd you get your training?
I went to Fresno State.
All right. Go Bulldogs. How about you, Chris?
I was too smart for school. No, I actually didn't just all on the job. Been doing surveying for about 13 years.
Oh.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. That's where the real education comes from, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
What else do you guys want to say about Pasquini Engineering? Is there a name that the community calls, a kind of a pet name, if you will? Because you guys do everything. So what?
Like a one-stop shop kind
I
of
think
place.
the one-stop shop is what.
A lot of people say they're one-stop shop, but this is, with the geotech and with the architecture, really, truly redefining one-stop shop. It really is.
Well, guys, we really appreciate you coming on. We, as we said, owner Mark Pasquini over in Santa Barbara on a project, Clete Harper down at Cedar Sinai. So these guys just jumped right in the chair and filled in. And we really want to thank you for coming. And again, this is an opportunity that we offer to all businesses out there to come on the set and really, so that you can really get to know, people can get to know you. And I think it's a very important service.
Connecting with the community.
Well, thank you for having us.
Well, you're welcome. Is it break time?
It is.
All right.
Hey, and can we come back to that other camera for a minute, Chris? Let's compliment our decorator here. Isn't that a cute
Yes, it's the new year, and our decorator is back. This is Denise Haddock, Interior Designs, and we thank her so very much for giving her time to beautify our studio.
You bet, you bet.
Thank you. We'll be back in just a moment.
We do our research.
We're shoppers. I was hoping I could save money with Personal Express Insurance.
We've had other quotes from other companies.
And in shopping around, it was the best price.
When she actually ran the numbers, I was shocked at the savings that I had.
I have checked around. Personal Express Insurance is less. They have great rates.
They're one of the lowest around that I've found.
Nobody can beat Personal Express Insurance.
Low rates with the local advantage. That's Personal Express.
Hi, Corey Costello here, host of Roadrunner Rundown, the official program CESUB Roadrunner Athletics. Join us Tuesday, 10 a.m. as we talk women's basketball with head coach Greg McCall as the Runners are at home for their conference weekend. Also, we will get back to Corey Versus, and my promised discus throw to make up for my awful hammer performance will happen this week as well. That and much, much more, all the highlights and scores from around Roadrunner Athletics, Tuesday, 10 to 11 a.m. right here on Bakersfield.com.
Introducing TBC Mobile from the Bakersfield Californian. The most complete news, sports, weather, video, opinion, and lifestyle coverage in Bakersfield and Kern County. It's the easiest way to stay up to date on all things local while on the go. Read it on your smartphone or tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores.
The Bakersfield Californian is a great read on the iPad, but did you know that the Bakersfield Californian is available on your Kindle Fire? Or how about Google's Nexus 7, the Nook? You bet. You can also read a full replica of the newspaper on your Android-powered smartphone, on Apple's iPhone, or on your laptop. We have a solution for any device. E-Edition is free for subscribers, or just $7.99 a month. The Bakersfield Californian. We're everywhere and anytime. Subscribe today. Bakersfield.com.
I'm Lisa Kirsch. Coming up Wednesday on Live Well, it is the Super Bowl edition. You don't want to miss this. Chef Robert will be on, sharing all kinds of recipes for special eats and treats during the big game, as well as the Food Dudes, who will be stopping in to share their information with us, along with Scott Cox, who's going to be coming in to talk about all things manly and man caves, and it'll be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss that. That is coming up on Live Well Wednesday, right here on Bakersfield.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Open Up with Don and Tina. We are about to hear some fascinating information from my co-host, Don Clark. And Don spent more than 45 years of his adult life as a professional journalist and in the TV and newspaper industry. And we are about to hear some wonderful and exciting things about John Fitzgerald Kennedy. I'm not sure which president he was. I know President 35th president. So we are about to get into some exciting things. So Don, tell us what got you started into your research and information and knowledge about John F. Kennedy.
My research into John Kennedy, and Tina, I would have to correct you and say what I have to share really isn't exciting, and it's not wonderful. It's really quite dark and quite disturbing.
Okay.
And it has to do with his assassination.
Okay.
I was in college at the time that John Kennedy was assassinated. In fact, I remember I was sleeping in after an all-nighter that I'd pulled, and I was still in bed when someone came into the room and said, the president's been shot. And I remember lying there in bed thinking, well, he'll get the finest medical care. I'm sure he'll be okay. And I just rolled over and went back to sleep. And when I woke up, I learned that he was dead. And so, of course, we all mourned. We all went through that dark experience of losing our president. And then came the Warren Commission report, and about in 1964, a few months later, and so that seemed to be the official conclusion. John F. Kennedy was shot by a lone assassin, one rifle, 3 shots, one shooter, and so that seemed to be the end of the matter. And so for the next really 28 years, along with the rest of the nation, I accepted that explanation. And of course, I heard about questions being raised by this colorful district attorney down in Louisiana, Jim Garrison, but I went along with the popular view that he was just a Southern caricature, trying to make a name for himself, stirring up dust about nothing worth reading about. And I actually went to hear a lecture by one of the early critics of the Warren Commission, Mark Lane, in his book, Rush to Judgment. And when I walked over, I was out at a meeting. I was disturbed by it. It really shook my confidence in the official version. But, life goes on. Things get busy. The years pass, and it just kind of went from my mind. But then came in answer to your question, what got me started really was the movie in 1991 by Oliver Stone, JFK.
Okay.
And I went to see that movie. In fact, Tina, I went to see it back in your neck of the woods in Washington, D.C. And I saw it with a member of the National Security Council.
Okay.
And I can tell you that when I walked out of that movie, I was outraged.
Wow.
Outraged. I thought, this is the most reckless, irresponsible, despicable thing that has ever been put on a movie screen. How dare this man intimate and suggest that that the highest levels of our own government had killed our own president? I was livid. It was beyond me. My patriotism was kind of the Merle Haggard kind, speak ill of my country and you're on the fighting side of me, boy. And so I come back to Bakersfield and I show up for work in the office, and there I start sharing my outrage over this film, and that's where I ran head on into one of the most well-read men I've ever met in journalism. He was our 11 o'clock producer. And we started to argue. And Tina, we argued the whole shift. Now, I don't know how we ever got the news on that night, because all we did was argue about this. And various members of the staff would come in for 5 or 10 minutes. They'd throw in their 2 bits worth. But he and I, we argued over our headsets while the show was going on in commercial breaks. We argued as we walked out to our cars to go home. And his parting shot to me was, Clark, this investigation has not been dormant for the last 30 years, and some of the best books in the field are just coming off the presses. And in rising to the challenge, I said, you bring him in, and I'll read him, as if to say, I'll show you.
Yes.
He began to bring him in, and I began to read.
And what'd you find out?
Well, my reading took on a pattern. I would get home from doing the news at about midnight. I would kiss my wife goodnight. I would prop myself up on the armrest of the sofa with a pillow on my stomach and a book on the pillow, and I would read for 6 hours. I would read till my wife would come in the morning and kiss me good morning, and then I'd go to bed and sleep till noon. 6 hours a night. Tina, I read like that for the first stretch for 5 straight years. I read even more on weekdays, on weekends, and vacations. I read enough books to fill 35 boxes, 3 stacks to the ceiling of my study. And as I began to read, and as the facts began to emerge, it was shattering to me. I mean, it was the most depressing thing I had ever gone through. And things that I thought were unthinkable became undeniable. And that's and so that was the and really it represented as a journalist who's paid to know the truth, it represented 28 years of failure that I wasn't questioning the official version in the first place.
Right. And Don, I have to ask you at this quick point, you know, in the movie that Oliver Stone did, did you have any desire to try and contact him and make a...
He and I have corresponded. I told him of my journey. He said he totally understood and appreciated my own quest for the truth, and how I really think Oliver Stone came about one concentric circle away from a dead-on bullseye from that show. So anyway...
So, I mean, look what learning and studying and researching can do for a person.
Well, yes. And so if you want to know my conclusions, I think they could be summarized very quickly. One, the Warren Commission is fiction. It belongs on the fiction shelf. It was not an honest inquiry into the Kennedy assassination.
Okay.
It was a rubber-stamped, prearranged scenario that was relying on doctored, filtered, fraudulent, selective information provided by the FBI, and that's what the Warren Commission had to make its decisions on.
Okay.
And it was pursuing a conclusion that had already been prescribed and preordained. It was a public relations snow job. That's what the Warren Commission was.
Wow.
I think there's every reason to believe that Lee Harvey Oswald did not shoot anything that day, that he passed all of his paraffin tests, showed he'd not fired a firearm that day. So there were just about every element of what we'd been officially taught about the Warren Commission just does not hold up in the light of facts that continue to emerge. Just amazing. As we go on, even today, books that are emerging, they become more comprehensive, more conclusive, more detailed, more insightful, and absolutely devastating to the official version.
And Don, what about your friends? How did your friends react to what you were finding out?
It was a lonely journey, Tina. As you can imagine, my wife could really not accompany me on this journey. She had her own life to live. She couldn't enter into the depression and the darkness that I was going through. I was quite surprised that my colleagues at the television station seemed to have very little interest in this, more interested in what they were going to do for the weekends and their vacations, and who killed the president really did not seem to be a matter of any interest or importance to them. Maybe it's a generational thing that I was alive at that time. They weren't. They were younger. But that was a bit discouraging to me.
So where are you now with it? I mean, like you said, information is still coming out. I was in the store the other night, and there's a beautiful magazine with this picture on the front, and had a lot of pictures in there and information. I didn't get it because I knew I was going to be talking with you and wanted to hear more. So where are you now with this?
I wonder where the country is. That as we approached, when this year 2013 started, I was hopeful. I knew it was the 50th anniversary coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I knew there'd be a lot of attention paid to John F. Kennedy. I was hopeful that the nation might finally come to grips with the enormity and the awfulness of what happened today and its far-reaching impact down to our own day. It's clear to me that that's not going to happen because there was so much, again, conflicting. I can understand why the American people remain confused. They remain conflicted. They remain wondering, well, what can I believe? What should I believe? Because there's been so much thrown at them. But what I can tell you is that there are books out there and research that really nail down. We don't have to guess anymore. The truth is out there. We don't have to wait for some distant date. It's been figured out, and not that all those conclusions are shared, but I can tell you that that the truth is out there about John Kennedy, and I guess we're due for a break. When we come back, I'll just share with you some of the things that have been unearthed since that death.
Wow. Yes.
But I would say this. I would say if you need to leave at this point, that kind of a bottom line is that Eisenhower's farewell address. Now he's going out, John Kennedy's coming in. In his farewell address, Eisenhower warns his famous warning about the military-industrial complex. And he warns that there's this new concentration of power, ominous, new in the American experience. We've never had this before. And it poses what he says is a threat to our democratic processes and our democratic way of life. And his solution was that for an informed, vigilant citizenry to always be on guard, to never take anything for granted. Well, what I can say is now that the threat, the potential danger that Eisenhower warned about, had already become not just potential, it had become reality. That power was firmly in place. John Kennedy and his policies represented the first credible threat to that concentration of power, and they took him out.
Wow. Well, quite interesting. We'll take a break at this point, and we'll be back and hear much more. Thank you for being with us.
Introducing TBC Mobile from the Bakersfield Californian. The most complete news, sports, weather, video, opinion, and lifestyle coverage in Bakersfield and Kern County. It's the easiest way to stay up to date on all things local while on the go. Read it on your smartphone or tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores. Kern Business Journal contains news and information from local business leaders and organizations. Topics include agriculture, health and medical, energy, real estate, and more. Visit KernBusinessJournal.com to find out how to subscribe or where to pick up a free copy. To inquire about advertising in the bi-monthly Business Journal, call 395-7586. Find us online on Facebook and Twitter, as well as on KernBusinessJournal.com.
Save 50 to 90% with the Bakersfield Californian's Daily Deal featured on Bakersfield.com. A daily deal is offered each weekday on services from local restaurants, dry cleaners, health and beauty services, retail shops, and local activities for the entire family. The Daily Deal is 100% local. Find these amazing deals only at dailydeal.bakersfield.com.
I'm Lisa Kirsch. Coming up Wednesday on Live Well, it is the Super Bowl edition. You don't want to miss this. Chef Robert will be on sharing all kinds of recipes for special eats and treats during the big game, as well as the Food Dudes who will be stopping in to share their information with us, along with Scott Cox, who's going to be coming in to talk about all things manly and man caves, and it'll be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss that. That is coming up on Live Well Wednesday right here on Bakersfield.com.
The Bakersfield Californian is a great read on the iPad, but did you know that the Bakersfield Californian is available on your Kindle Fire? Or how about Google's Nexus 7, the Nook? You bet. You can also read a full replica of the newspaper on your Android-powered smartphone, on Apple's iPhone, or on your laptop. We have a solution for any device. E-Edition is free for subscribers, or just $7.99 a month. The Bakersfield Californian. We're everywhere and anytime. Subscribe today. Bakersfield.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Thank you so much for joining us. A big shout out to Chuck Noss and Wendy at Nature's Food Market and Juice Bar, 1918 G Street here in Bakersfield. During the break, he brought a delicious drink by for us. I'm not sure what it is, but it is so delicious. And so I encourage you to go down, please. This will get your new year started off in a healthy way. And again, thanks to our dear friend Denise Haddock with Denise Haddock Designs with this lovely design. Okay, we're getting back to my co-host, Don Clark, who's been talking with us about the assassination of John F. Kennedy. So, Don, let's get back into this. Where did we leave off at the break?
Well, let me say this. If any of you are truly interested in this, I've given an extensive speech on this, and I've prepared a reading list. And I will be glad to email that to anybody that is interested in this. And so my personal email is dclarkglobal@aol.com, okay. dclarkglobal@aol.com, because clearly we won't have time to go into all of the things that we would need to go into to satisfy any honest inquiry about this. But I can refer you to the books that will answer those questions.
Okay.
Let me tell you one piece of research that has come out of a book called JFK and the Unspeakable, Why He Died and Why It Matters by James W. Douglas. It's an outstanding book. It was written in 2008. It is a brilliant piece of original research. JFK and the Unspeakable, Why He Died and Why It Matters. And one of the things that we've all seen the video and documentaries of Lee Harvey Oswald being brought out the front of the Texas Theater, all the mob that was out there.
Right.
And remember, the way they found him was a shoe salesman just a couple doors down had watched this suspicious behavior as he went into the theater and didn't pay for a ticket. And it goes to the ticket agent, they call the cops. Well, as this was going on, a fellow who owned, I think it was called Howard's Hobby Shop, a couple doors on the other side, came out to try to see what was going on. Okay. And there was so much hubbub, he couldn't see it. So he walked through his store and went back out into the alley. And he saw an officer leading this young man and putting him in a police cruiser and driving him away. Later, when he watched television, he said, the man I saw come out the back looked just like Lee Harvey Oswald. Just like him. Now, switch. We go a few blocks away to the Oak Cliff section of Dallas, where the All Points bulletins were being broadcast on the radio. Be on the lookout for suspicious characters. And there was a place called Mac Pete's Auto Shop, auto mechanics, and across the street was a restaurant called El Chico's Restaurant. And the mechanic working there was listening to the radio, was aware of what was going on, saw a red Ford Falcon pull in to the El Chico parking lot and park at a very strange angle, and saw this man slump down as if he were trying to hide. And so it piqued his curiosity. He walks across the street. He angles himself. He looks straight down into the guy slumped in the seat and walks back. And later, when he sees television, he says, the man I saw there was Lee Harvey Oswald, or at least he looked exactly like the man on the screen, all right? Now, that place, El Chico's Restaurant, was 1.3 miles from a construction site in Dallas that had been totally cleared more than 4,000 feet of just open space. Now let's switch the scene to Andrews Air Force Base back in your neck of the woods, where there was an Air Force sergeant trying to fly home to Denver, where he worked for NORAD, the North American Air Defense Command, and trying to catch any flight going that way, going west. And the dispatcher said, no, we don't have anything. So he said, well, I'm going to hang around, catch breakfast, and maybe something will turn up. He just ordered his breakfast. It had just been delivered. The dispatcher comes on and says, we've got a flight going. If you get right down to the tarmac now, you can catch it. He goes down to the tarmac, and there's a plane sitting there that has no markings or numbers on it. The only thing that has on its tail is a rust-colored globe in kind of a rust-colored globe that later turns out to be a CIA front airline. But anyway, he gets on board. He's the only one on board. Suddenly, two guys in just overalls come on. They're not in uniforms. They come on. They don't say a word to him. They go right by. He signs no log, no manifest, no usual procedure to be a passenger on a plane. They go right into the cockpit, close the door, and take off. So they're flying, and he says he thinks he was about over Nebraska, and the voice comes on and says, the president has been shot, unemotional. The president has been shot. And he says the plane suddenly takes a hard bank left going south. And he said, in time, they come upon a skyline that he recognizes, Dallas, Texas. That plane sat down on that construction site. As he looked out the window, he saw two men running across the field and all the dust that was kicking up. One a slightly built man, one more heavily built and dark. And they get on. They say nothing to him. The plane turns and takes off, continues south, west, that is. And then finally it lands. By the time it lands, it's dark. All four of those men just straight got off the plane and disappeared into the darkness. He gets off the plane. He doesn't know where he is. He sees a light on in a guard shack. He goes over and says, where am I? And he says, you're in Roswell, New Mexico. And he says, well, I need to get to Denver. I need to catch a bus. And he says, the base is on lockdown. You can't leave. And he said, lockdown? How did we get into the base if it's on lockdown? But 2 hours pass, and the guard says, the lockdown's been lifted. You can go. He goes home to Denver. He watches television. And the young man he saw get onto that plane looked exactly like Lee Harvey Oswald.
Wow.
And so we've heard all about the double Oswalds and all the things. Well, here is convincing proof that existed. You know, the irony is that John Kennedy, the real break, well, the mob, of course, hated the Kennedys because they betrayed him. Joseph Kennedy had made a deal with Sam Giancana that his son was going to be president, and he would always remember the favor done to his father. And yet, when they came to office, they immediately went after the mob like no one had ever done. And the mob, it's all right if you fight the mob, but if the mob does you a favor, helps you win in West Virginia or some other place, and then you betray them, that's off. And that's why Carlos Marcello, mob boss of New Orleans and Dallas, said they're going to be hit. They're going to be hit. And then Kennedy's policies, as he moved from being a cold warrior to being a dramatic peace warrior, that didn't sit well at all with the military. They didn't consider the Cuban Missile Crisis a victory for the world. They considered they'd lost. They were really fighting for a total taking out of Cuba. And in the end, Kennedy and Khrushchev ended up closer together than they were to either of their militaries.
Before that. Okay. Don, now you watched that movie, you talk about the Cuban Missile Crisis. What was that, 12 days?
13 days.
13 days. 13 days. What was your thought about that movie?
I think it was pretty good. I think it could have been, I think it really showed the character of General Curtis LeMay. I think he was the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, head of the Air Force, wanted to bomb the hell out of Cuba and wanted a first nuclear strike against the Soviet Union. I mean, these guys were Cold Warriors to the max. And what they didn't know, if they'd gone after Cuba, there were about 160 nuclear warheads that were ready to go under operational command of the person at the site. They didn't need Khrushchev's approval to do this. If we'd done that, we would have probably lost most every city on the West Coast and in the Gulf. I mean, they were ready to go, and it could have been nuclear nightmare. truly. And both Kennedy and Khrushchev had experienced the horrors of war, and when they realized how close they'd come to the greatest crime in history, they both stepped back, and there began a series of personal exchanges between them. And in fact, at Kennedy's funeral, Khrushchev showed up, and Jackie said to him, "You and my husband fought together for peace, and now you will have to fight on alone." And then Khrushchev was taken out by his military, not murdered, but relieved of office.
Okay. Now, earlier we had a question in the audience. Did you answer that yet, or is that something you wanted to address?
What was that question?
With Chip. Chip had a question. The book suppository.
No, I haven't been there. But, you know, one thing about the official version, they say there were only 3 shots. All right. The first shot, if it came from that window, the measurable trajectory is 22 feet wide of the president's limousine and 33 feet high. I mean, that was and the real shooters that were contracted by the mob, they said they were positioned in the Dow, Texas building. Remember, the first shot missed, hit a curb, struck James Tigg by the check down by the overpass. I mean, but if it was fired from the Dow, Texas building behind him, it was almost a near miss. And there are people who actually witnessed. Ed Hoffman was a deaf mute standing on the other side of the overpass where he had a clear view of the backside of the grassy knoll. And in sign language, 2 times, he told the Warren Commission he saw the shot. He saw the man toss the gun to this guy in overalls, railroad overalls, saw him dismantle the gun, saw him put it in a toolbox, saw him walk away over toward the railroad, saw the guy dressed in a uniform escape. I mean, twice he told the Warren Commission this.
I've never heard that story.
Told the FBI this, and finally he was just his friends just said, "It's not wise for you to keep telling the story."
Not wise for him to keep telling that story. You know, Don, we've got 30 seconds left. Anything
well,
you
all
want
I
to
can
say?
all I can say is, keep reading. If you believe the official version, you just need to keep reading. And as Americans, the bottom line of this is the forces that gained the ascendancy that day in Dallas or regained the ascendancy are still in the ascendancy today, which tells us much about where we are as a nation and how we got here.
Wow. Don, thank you so very much for sharing all that information. And like you said in the beginning, it's dark and not that encouraging. But thank you, and we're about to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to hear from our good words for the new week. Thank you very much.
Introducing TBC Mobile from the Bakersfield Californian. The most complete news, sports, weather, video, opinion, and lifestyle coverage in Bakersfield and Kern County. It's the easiest way to stay up to date on all things local while on the go. Read it on your smartphone or tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores. Kern Business Journal contains news and information from local business leaders and organizations. Topics include agriculture, health and medical, energy, real estate, and more. Visit KernBusinessJournal.com to find out how to subscribe or where to pick up a free copy. To inquire about advertising in the bi-monthly Business Journal, call 395-7586. Find us online on Facebook and Twitter, as well as on KernBusinessJournal.com.
Hi, Corey Costello here, host of Roadrunner Rundown, the official program CESUB Roadrunner Athletics. Join us Tuesday, 10 a.m. as we talk women's basketball with head coach Greg McCall as the Runners are at home for their conference weekend. Also, we will get back to Corey Versus, and my promised discus throw to make up for my awful hammer performance will happen this week as well. That and much, much more, all the highlights and scores from around Roadrunner Athletics, Tuesday, 10 to 11 a.m. right here on Bakersfield.com.
The Bakersfield Californian is a great read on the iPad, but did you know that the Bakersfield Californian is available on your Kindle Fire? Or how about Google's Nexus 7, the Nook? You bet! You can also read a full replica of the newspaper on your Android-powered smartphone, on Apple's iPhone, or on your laptop. We have a solution for any device. E-Edition is free for subscribers, or just $7.99 a month. The Bakersfield Californian. We're everywhere and anytime. Subscribe today. Bakersfield.com.
Save 50 to 90% with the Bakersfield Californian's daily deal featured on Bakersfield.com. A daily deal is offered each weekday on services from local restaurants, dry cleaners, health and beauty services, retail shops, and local activities for the entire family. The daily deal is 100% local. Find these amazing deals only at dailydeal.bakersfield.com.
I'm Lisa Kirsch. Coming up Wednesday on Live Well, it is the Super Bowl edition. You don't want to miss this. Chef Robert will be on, sharing all kinds of recipes for special eats and treats during the big game, as well as the Food Dudes, who will be stopping in to share their information with us, along with Scott Cox, who's going to be coming in to talk about all things manly and man caves, and it'll be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss that. That is coming up on Live Well Wednesday, right here on Bakersfield.com.
Welcome back, everyone. How exciting it's been for today's program. Don, I'm going to introduce Jackie, but you had something you'd like to say?
Well, I just wanted to say this show is not about bringing people down and the reason we did about JFK is we just didn't want to let the month go by after celebrating the 50th anniversary of this assassination without trying to offer some word of clarification. So that's the only reason we did this.
Very good. Thank you so much, Don. Okay, it's time for our Good Words for the New Week segment. And we have, well, let me say this because Don always says it as well. We offer to the community anyone who would like to come in, business person who's got an encouraging word, an inspirational word, or some life lesson you've learned that you'd like to share with us. So Jackie Sullivan, founder and president of In God We Trust America, Incorporated.
Thank you, Don and Tina, for inviting me here this morning. Very interesting, Don. Certainly talking about JFK, I remember very well through his presidency, and of course in his inaugural speech, his famous words, "Ask not what the country can do for us, but what we can do for our country." And that is certainly a perfect way for me to talk about what is so important in my life today. I'm a strong patriot. I love God. I love country. And I feel God has blessed me with the opportunity, the privilege of being the founder of In God We Trust America. Our mission statement is to promote patriotism, which of course is love of God and love of country, to promote patriotism by encouraging elected officials to vote yes, to legally display our national motto, In God We Trust, in their city and county chamber in every city in America, every municipality in America. So being In God We Trust America, we need volunteers. It's a very exciting work. It can be done, with 1 hour a week. Our work, our information is sent out via email to every city and county in the country. So it can be done from one's own computer in one's own home. And it's just important, certainly, to keep the true identity of our country, which our Constitution is inspired by God. Certainly the framers of our country most of them did have a faith in God, and it just is going to be an asset. We can't change what happened yesterday, but we can certainly have a strong influence on what can happen and what we need to have happen in America in the future. So thank you for inviting me. I encourage people to want to get involved in something that can good for our country and good for communities. And so contact me, and I'll personally help you get started with In God We Trust America. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Jackie, and welcome back. So,
you know, we've just Tina and I sat at Jackie's table this morning at the 34th annual Bakersfield Prayer Breakfast, which is the second largest gathering of its kind in America, topped only by the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C. And we really think, you know, starting the year with prayer for every segment of our city,
yes,
I think is making a real difference,
yes,
a huge impact on what this town is all about and what our future is going to be all about.
Yes.
Well, now one of the wonderful things we do, I think, is we have a little forum called Open Forum, and we invite people who've really got something to say, maybe to stir the pot, maybe the other side of the story, the rest of the story, to come on and share their insights. And we are so fortunate to have Ed Davis, who's been coming on. This is a man of immense intelligence, background, experience. He's a scientist, an agronomist, the foremost agronomist in this region, and is just in touch with so many issues that the major media seems to miss or present only one side of the story. So, Ed, take it away. We're talking about water, which is the lifeblood of this valley.
Yes, well, thank you for having me on again. It's
Welcome,
always a real pleasure. What I wanted to talk about today is something that's been a real burden for me for a long time, and the fact is people just don't realize what's really going on. Here in the southern San Joaquin Valley, we are incredibly good to our environment with regard to sewage, effluent, and runoff and that type of a thing. It's actually against the law for us to have any effluent or any runoff from our agricultural fields, for example's sake, to go into any aquifer of any kind. We have to contain our own deal by law. Conversely, all of the cities that are along, in fact, are along our entire coastal region, don't have to follow that law. So ultimately, their sewage effluent and all their industrial waste ultimately goes into the ocean. And which brings me to this water issue that we have coming out of the Delta right now, something that is not talked about. But in the Delta region, there's over 400 acre-feet of water discharged from sewage facilities per day. So the ultimate reality is that millions and millions and millions of gallons of sewage effluent are actually going into the Delta and into the bay, then out into the ocean, which is against the law for us. We can't do this. The ultimate reality is that the smelt that we hear about and the salmon that we hear about is actually a smokescreen, because it really doesn't touch the issue of sewage effluent that is leaving these municipalities all along the Delta, which include, I've got Sacramento here, and Stockton and Lodi, and just on and on and on, even San Francisco, they all do it. So the unfortunate reality is because their effluent has a different pH and also a higher salt index than does the actual Delta, they need the entire flow of the Delta to dilute the effluent. That's why we don't get any water, because if they don't let this effluent be diluted to a point where the smelt and the salmon can actually live, then it kills the smelt and it kills the salmon, so that the salmon and smelt can't live in the Delta, having nothing to do with us. And again, this is against the law for us. We here in Bakersfield, for example's sake, which is a model community, all of our effluent goes to the Bakersfield farm, and all of that effluent in total is used by the farm growing crops that are not human edible, like cotton and alfalfa. And it's been going on for many years, and it's a wonderful program, but these municipalities like Sacramento and Stockton and Lodi and Oakland and on and on and on, none of them have an operation, anything like this. So in their mind's eye, dilution is the solution, which is absolutely an environmental disaster, because the fact is that our pH in our ocean has actually increased 1/10, and every 3/10 of pH doubles. So the ultimate reality is that all of the unfortunate maladies that are up and down our coast with regard to the flora and fauna that live in and about the water is emanating from the sewage that is coming from our municipalities. And that is the absolute honest-to-God truth. So it is not the diesel trucks. It is not all of these other things. It is pollution emanating from the sewage that is leaving all of these municipalities up and down the coastal region. And again, the reason why we can't get any water is because the reality is that dilution being the solution is the only way that these municipalities can in fact get rid of all their sewage effluent. And that is an absolute atrocity. We can't do it. Why should they be able to do it? Monies and considerations that are being spent right now on the consideration of a high-speed rail, for example's sake, should be going into, hey, we can do that somewhere down the road, but we have a pollution problem here that is emanating from all of these municipalities. How do we solve those first? And so it's really a fascinating thing. I have the analyticals emanating from the city of Sacramento, and I look at soil and water analysis all day long. It's what I do for a living, and I can tell you that the EC, the electroconductivity, or the total salts that emanates from the Sacramento effluent is 10 times greater than the actual runoff of the Delta. The pH is lower.
We've got 1 minute. I want to ask you, do you think that any of our legislators here in the Valley, any of our congressional leaders, and have you seen any segment of the media that you feel is sufficiently educated about what you've just shared with us that can make the case in Sacramento for us?
No. It is something that is not talked about, because if you're a legislator and you're talking about something that's going to cost money, you will not get elected. Instead of being truthful and honest to the people of our state about what our real problems are, they continue to give information that will get them elected. And it's a shame. It's a crying shame. And I really don't know how we can all collectively, unless everyone understands the issue, how we can change it.
Well, Ed, you're a part of that solution. We appreciate you coming on. We think you're a treasure, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ed.
Thank you.
Okay, this is it, Don. And thanks to everybody for being here today, our studio audience. A big thank you, I got to say it again, for Chuck. This is a delicious drink. Nature's Fruit Market and Juice Bar, and Denise Haddock. We love you so much. You're the best. Thank you to Jackie Sullivan and Pasquini Engineering for sponsoring our show today. We'll see you next time.
Have a great week.